What is going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 26 of the Coach and the Couch Potato. As always, I'm Jeremy the Couch Potato. Opposite side of the screen, we got Coach Slate. Episode 26. Robert Smith makes it way too easy, so we're
Way
not
too
going
easy.
there.
Way too
This
easy.
is going to be the Ashton Your Booty episode.
Yeah.
I was torn between him and Tyler Moeller.
Okay.
So,
All right.
but
Two
we
good
went with
choices.
Ashton.
Ashton Yabodi, underrated corner in Ohio State history. He was a dog.
First round draft pick.
Yeah.
I mean, got to play with Nate Clements when he was in Buffalo for a year or two. So that was cool. How was your week? I know where you've been, so I'm a little jealous, but how was the week?
Oh, man, it was great. Family had vacation. You know, every year we go up to a little town called Arcadia, Michigan. It's right on Lake Michigan. It's about an hour south of Traverse City. It's phenomenal. You know, we have a big cabin that we all stay in as a family, and it's crazy. Sometimes you wish there were more bathrooms, but it is such a good time, man. Lake Michigan, it doesn't get any better. Like, the water's crystal clear. The kids love it too. The weather was perfect. It never got hotter than like 75. Got to hit the links as well. We went golfing, Champion Hill golf course, and it was a very nice golf course. It was funny. It's called Champion Hill because there's a bunch of elevation changes, but there was like a 4-hole stretch where I legitimately thought we were in the clouds. Like, it was so foggy that you couldn't see the pin. It was a couple par threes and you couldn't see the pin. And so, like, we were just hitting the ball. I'm like, well, we hope it's down there. And, you know, so that was fun. But yeah, it was a good week, man. Good week. Glad to be back. Yeah, football starts up tomorrow. So we're ready to go, man. How's your week been?
It was good. It was good. I did the family thing on Sunday since we recorded last Saturday. You know, had the 4th of July in there. You know, my neighborhood tends to sound like a war zone for about the 3 days around. So got to see a pretty good fireworks show. So yeah, all good on that front. All good.
Nice.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we'll jump right into it for you guys because it's been a week. You know, we knew this week had the potential to be really, really good, be really, really bad, or somewhere in between. And I'm probably in the minority. I'm going to say it's been a good week.
Okay.
Monday, we got started with the commitment of Maxwell Roy. You know, we've talked about him a pretty decent amount. Pennsylvania kid, long time Michigan lead.
Yeah.
So to be able to go get another one of these dudes in the trenches, and let's be honest, that's where we've lost that game the last 2 years, is in the trenches. So to get a dude that they've been chasing tells you you're going after the right kind of guy. And to continue that Philadelphia pipeline, you know, that might be a very underrated football area.
Oh, no doubt about it, man. Yeah, no doubt about it.
You know, you hear so much talk of Florida, Georgia, Texas, and PA isn't what it used to be. And I think, you know, I don't know, obviously, the true numbers, but I feel like there's been a little bit of population decline over there and stuff. Like when you look at even electoral votes and stuff, that you know, I think they've lost one. So yeah, shout out to Maxwell Roy.
Yeah.
You know, St. Joe's Prep. 4th ranked player in the state of Pennsylvania, according to 247. They've got him listed as 6'3", 285. Obviously, you get into a college football strength and conditioning program, and he'll probably be to 300 pretty quick, but it's going to be a good 300.
Yeah, absolutely. I've got some clips I want to pull up of him. This is a kid, man. He wasn't on my radar until, you know, you text me about, you know, him not being a Michigan lean anymore. And so once that happened, I kind of looked into him, and I see why why Coach Johnson and you know, Coach Day like this kid. I mean, he could definitely play. When it says 6'3", 285, like, he doesn't necessarily look like he is that big. But he plays in a great program, plays in a great scheme. Like he's definitely obviously big, but he doesn't like, he just seems like he has got good hands. He's pretty slender. You know what I mean? Like he's not a lot of body fat on him, but you could see he's a fiery guy. We showed some clips of him last week as well. But, now that we've got him in the fold, I mean, you can kind of see what you get from him. High effort kid. I mean, you can just look at him chasing down this play. Like that is phenomenal. Any defensive tackle, that's the type of stuff that you want. Obviously, like we said, coming from a great program. And so wrapping this guy up in the 25 class and really building into those trenches, man, is really good. And I think, this is a kid who will play violent with his hands. Love seeing him get that extension right there. He does that pretty much every rep that he's not moving. And this is a 3-man front. He kicks out the defensive end. They do some slanting and angling. He's able to get flat down the line of scrimmage and go make a play. And so this is a kid who is, I guess, rumors, or I'm not 100% sure about it, but he did have to deal with some sort of knee injury as far as like maybe an ACL. So he may be dealing with that. Who knows when he'll be ready or if he'll be ready. But when he is ready, I think this is a kid that could provide a lot of what Larry Johnson is looking for in that defensive line room. I mean, the dude just plays with a motor. The more film I watch on him, the more I like him. This kid can play.
And it looks like they use him inside and out.
Yeah.
The very first play, really good lateral movement, which you don't always see out of those big interior guys. Those guys are a lot of, run stuffers, so to speak. So
yeah,
they're not traditionally a move out as somebody else is holding the edge for them. So that, again, you're just continuing to build. And one little note, since the next guy we're going to talk about is the defensive guy as well, just the defensive commitments in the Ohio State class would be the number 7 overall ranked class in college football right now.
Really?
Yeah.
Dude, that's pretty sweet. I didn't even think about that, man.
When you look at, so many of the Ohio State fan base and other people have always said your class rankings always get propped up by Heartline.
Yeah.
And that may not be false. I mean, it may very well be true. So it's really cool to see that. So keeping on the good news front before we dive into the as I put it on the notes, the bad, but I will get there in a minute. We'll
get there.
So yesterday, Threes, our boy Threes, goes big game hunting.
Yeah, man.
Goes down to McKinney, Texas, another powerhouse program.
Yes.
In the same county, I believe, as Peyton Pierce.
Yeah, I did see that on Twitter.
So that's cool. A guy who I don't think a lot of us thought the smoke was real, but props to Berm.
Yeah.
Berm put himself on an island a long time ago saying there's a better chance of this than people think.
Yeah.
And that's Riley Pettijohn.
Yeah.
247 has him as the number 10 player in the state of Texas. And he's kind of that interesting. Most places have him as a 4-star.
Yeah.
But he's a composite 5-star. So
that's different. Yeah.
Yeah. And this kid, for a linebacker, is a freaking missile.
He is a missile.
Like 10-6 in the 100, I think.
Yeah.
So it only makes sense. The comparison I saw for him today was Ryan Shazier.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense.
So, I mean, mom's from Cincinnati, I found out, though. So that plays in. But for Laurinaitis to go to Texas and Florida and get 2 of the top 5 linebackers in the country in his first year being able to recruit. And Eli Lee's no slouch. Let's not forget that.
No.
3, as you've hit on before when we talk about the backers and the way things are looking,
yep.
3 vastly different guys.
Yeah.
But this is a home run for Threes.
This is definitely a home run for threes. I'm going to get his clips pulled up as well, but this is a kid who is new to playing the linebacker position. Based on some things that I've read, he was a big safety and they moved him down into the box, and this is where he's really started to thrive. Anytime you can get a kid with this type of speed, like you said, 10.6 in the 100, like that's fast for any position, but you're talking about somebody that's over 200 pounds, being able to run that fast. Like he's going to be sideline to sideline missile that's going to be all over the place. He will be an elite blitzer as well. Very much what we like to see from CJ Hicks, or what we saw from CJ Hicks in the spring when I was down at spring practice. I think this is the type of very similar mold of type of player when it comes to his athleticism. So we'll get his clips pulled up so you guys can see. Going to the state of Texas and getting these guys it's not an easy thing. And one of the players that we're going to talk about that the Buckeyes missed out on, you can compare it to, Texas or Texas A&M or any of those Texas schools losing out on this kid. He's an absolute stud. I don't even have any other way to put it. Like he is an absolute stud. 6 in the 100, this is one of the things I love about him. He's on special teams. Like he's running downfield, making plays. You can look at his frame, and he's just an athletic-looking kid. Here they got him out in space a little bit. He's able to go out and play some man coverage, flip his hips, go make a play. This is similar things to what we saw with Sonny Styles, and this is one of the reasons why they want to move him in the box, is because they can provide so much athleticism. He's able to play man coverage out of the backfield. He's able to make tackles sideline to sideline. Comes from a really good program in the state of Texas, so he's battle tested. This kid has, I don't want to say he's a total package, but he's pretty dang close. We'd like to see him get a little bigger, but he will when he gets here on campus. And so threes going down to Texas and getting this kid is, it is phenomenal. This kid is just a football player. His athleticism just takes over. And so for threes, he's looking at this as I can mold this kid into that stud linebacker that I think we are going to have in the Silver Bullets. And so I'm extremely excited about this kid. You can see him line up in the box. He's going to line up outside the box as well. All around, this will be like your traditional. He could play Sam or Will for us, where he's a walkout linebacker or he's a linebacker to the boundary. But this kid is all around pretty freaking good. So it's a huge, huge pickup for the Buckeyes.
Yeah, the days of Tough Borland covering Devonta Smith are gone. With Alfred and him, and and Eli Lee, he's your thumper, but he's still more athletic than Tough Borland was. Let's just
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, Tough was a warrior for the program. But
absolutely,
when you look at the improvement in the athleticism that room has gotten over the last 4 years, it needed to happen as the game has evolved. So shout out threes. And that was a recruitment. He did a really good job of keeping it pretty close to the vest. That was an OSU, USC, Texas A&M recruitment. Obviously Texas being the home school. He made no bones about it that his longest relationship was with A&M's defensive staff. But then he also made no bones about it as to why he committed. It was Coach Laurinaitis. And what he can do. And shout out Coach Laurinaitis for probably the coolest boom tweet
his daughters
that we've ever seen. With all three daughters, as a girl dad of three, I'm sure you can respect that. So
yeah, absolutely. The one thing I wanted to touch on about Coach Laurinaitis, he is knocking it out of the park as a recruiter right now. We can see that. But I can tell you, and one of the reasons why Brian Hartline is so successful, and one of the reasons why Tim Walton is so successful, the kids want to know what you have done as well. All right? So threes can go in these rooms and say, I've been an All-American with the Buckeyes. I am in the Rams Hall of Fame as a football player in the NFL. I played for 8 years. I was a leading tackler, never missed a game for the Rams as a starting linebacker. And so, like, being able to do that, Coach Hartline can go out and do the same thing. And Coach Walton can go out and do the same thing and say, not only did I make it there, but I also coached some of the best at that next level. And so, like, that translates so well with these kids, because for somebody like Riley Pettijohn or Alford or Eli Lee, they're looking at threes as the blueprint to get to where they need to go. Right. And so who better to teach me the blueprint than the person who laid that blueprint or foundation down than, James Laurinaitis. And so for him to be able to go in these rooms and to have those conversations with their moms and dads and families, and, not being from Ohio as well helps him out a lot too. Coming from Minnesota, like, Minnesota's not an easy trip. It's not an easy drive. It's a hike. And so he can relate in so many different aspects. And so it translates so well to recruiting these out-of-state kids. And so shout out to Coach Laurinaitis, man. He is, living up to the hype that we all believed that he would live up to. And, hopefully that continues. He is just he's a Buckeye through and through, man. So I can't root for the guy enough.
Yeah, and it's funny you say, how he can talk about where he's been. I saw a thing this week that a lot of his guys were shocked to know he was a 99 overall in a rendition of NCAA football. And obviously with that getting ready to drop, that's a big deal to those guys.
Yeah.
So, obviously not all, sunshine and rainbows this week. We'll go 4th of July, Decorian Moore. Was no surprise that he didn't choose Ohio State. Let's preface that. We had essentially written him off, a month ago, we'll say. What's the surprise is where he went.
Yeah.
Everybody kind of assumed, now this is a kid that was committed to LSU, decommitted from there, and then opened everything back up. But they were still a finalist. It was an LSU, Ohio State, Texas, because he's another Texas kid.
Yep.
And Oregon. Everybody thought he was going to Texas, and Uncle Phil's money got him out there. And when I say Uncle Phil, I don't mean Will Smith's Uncle Phil.
Yeah.
I mean, Moore chooses Oregon. Pretty big surprise, but again, I don't put a whole lot of stake into the numbers that you hear.
Yeah.
The rumored number is $1.3 million a year.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
Kid's good.
It's really good.
But he's 5'10".
Yeah. Yeah.
He's not Jeremiah Smith.
Yeah.
And that's not, I don't care if Jeremiah Smith would have went to Miami or Florida State. At the end of the day, Decorian Moore is not Jeremiah Smith.
Yeah.
Nor is he Chris Henry Jr.
Yeah.
I mean, if I'm going to pay a receiver that kind of money, he better be a guy who can go jump out the gym and out jump everybody in the red zone.
Well, yeah, and the one side of this too is because I've seen some Oregon, people or Buckeye fans, bashing the Oregon program and things like that, or throwing money at recruits. Like, listen, if Phil Knight was an Ohio State alumni, Ohio State would be doing the same exact thing. Like, that's the thing. And so I'm not going to fault Danny Lanning for using that resource. And I read an article the other day too, talking about Phil Knight. He's 86 years old. Like, he's not getting any younger. And so, if I'm going to leave a legacy, like I want to end up winning a national championship. I want to see Oregon, this place that I've poured all these resources into for decades. I want to see them win a natty and something. And so, I'm not going to fault, Danny Lanning or Phil Knight or anybody for wanting to do that. They knew coming into the Big Ten that they were going to have to battle with Ohio State every single year, not just on the field, but with recruits as well. So they're going after the same kids we are going after. And so it makes it easier to do that when you're playing in the same league as them. When you're playing out in the Pac-12 and not everybody's really watching you all that much, like, it makes it a little bit different. And so you and I have said this, you've said this multiple times, Oregon is going to be a threat in the Big Ten. Bottom line, because of the NIL world that we live in now, Oregon is always going to have unlimited resources at their feet. And so that is something that the Buckeyes and Michigan and all these other programs in the Big Ten are going to have to battle with. And so, I don't consider this like a loss for the Buckeyes.
No.
I don't consider even Dorian Brew, I don't necessarily consider that a loss to Oregon. What I do think it is the people recognizing that I can go somewhere, I can get paid. I know it's legitimate money. I know it's going to end up in my checking account. I'm going to go there. And so, listen, by all means, use it. Until they put, a cap or a threshold on this thing, teams like Oregon, teams like Ohio State, teams, that have money are going to thrive. And it's just the way that it is. Until they put some sort of cap on this, Oregon's going to be able to pay a kid $1.3 million a year and not have any issue because of Phil Knight and Nike. So, I think the kid's good. Like you said, I think he's actually really good. And I don't think he's J.J. Smith, but hey, Oregon went to Texas. They got him. And, and he goes to Duncanville. So you want to get into that pipeline. You want to be able to tap into that if I'm Oregon. So if I have to overpay for a kid just to get into that pipeline, then by all means, I'm going to do it. And this kid just happens to be a 5-star receiver.
Yeah, total sidebar, but talking about the power programs, it is pretty funny. I saw, kind of a breakdown today. The number of kids, and I don't think it was Duncanville exclusive, who come from the power programs in Texas that either A, don't pan out or transfer real quick.
Yeah.
And Modern Day is also another program where you see a lot of that. Obviously, you had Bryce Young, you had Amon-Ra St. Brown. Just a little sidebar there. And any Buckeye fan who wants to use the Dan Lanning loss to Washington because of his coaching as an excuse why Oregon's not going to be a problem, Ryan Day has made mistakes that have cost games too. I.e., the punt block in the one playoff game, or getting conservative against Georgia and not going for the touchdown. And so Dan Lanning, like you said last week, will 100% be on the list at Ohio State when Ryan Day decides he's either moving on or whatever.
Yeah.
There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it.
Nope.
I would assume that more going to Oregon. Texas is going to do everything they can to get Jamie French. Be interesting to see there. Ohio State's still the crystal ball leader, which makes zero sense to me because
that's crazy.
My understanding is we haven't even talked to the kid.
Yeah.
Lately. Vernell Brown staying in Florida, sounds like. So going to be interesting to see what happens there. The news that the Ohio State faithful are not handling very well at all. Wednesday morning, it's Justin Hill commitment day. Everybody's feeling great. We've talked about Justin Hill a lot. This kid is a monster.
Yep.
And about 8:30 a.m., Berm comes out, and I think his exact words were something feels off.
Yeah.
And about 10 o'clock, because it was a 1 o'clock announcement, I think, Will Fong, I'm leaning toward changing.
Yeah.
Translated, Hayes Fawcett told me he's going to Alabama.
Yeah.
Justin Hill goes to Alabama. Yes. Let's not make any bones about it. This sucks.
Yeah.
But I don't think this is so much that Ohio State, as it sits with the information that's out there, to me, it's not that Ohio State lost the recruitment.
No.
Alabama won the recruitment.
Yeah.
The family is absolutely smitten with Alabama. He didn't even tell his family that he was going to Bama until he announced it because he wanted to surprise his mom.
Yeah.
And that's how much of an affinity there is for Alabama. And at the end of the day, we've talked about he was being recruited to play the Jack at Ohio State. And as you're going to talk about later, yes, Ohio State is using the jack. But Ohio State is using the jack in a variation of a four-man front. In a way.
Yep.
Even with a new staff, Alabama goes from running a 3-4 to running more of a 3-3-5. It's an odd man front. It's cut and dry on the tape. This is you.
Yep.
So that's why I don't feel like it's a loss that Ohio State lost it. Now, like I said, actually it was Berm yesterday on the Riley Pettijohn Judgments podcast. He said there are things he'll get into this week potentially, though, that make him feel like Ohio State missed opportunities with Justin Hill. Now, with that said, Ohio State is not going to quit recruiting Justin Hill.
No.
It'll be interesting, but I don't think there's a flip. Now, if we come out and Sonny Styles, CJ Hicks go ham, at the jack, and it's right there. But I know how much you like Justin Hill as a player.
Oh man.
But if you hear the rumors of a disconnect between Coach Johnson and Coach Knowles.
Yeah.
Coach Johnson is killing it and recruiting this cycle, though.
Yeah.
What needs to happen, or is it just a matter of I guess it's kind of like you always think of scheme over stars.
Yeah.
Did a scheme fit, and was it not part of the reason he went to Bama?
Yeah. So you talk about Alabama's defense. Obviously, there was Washington's defense. They are more of an odd man front, and if they do play, this broken stack 3-3-5 defense, that outside linebacker to the boundary is going to be a Justin Hill type. He's going to be an outside backer. He's going to walk up when they want a four-man front. He's going to be on the field every snap, unless they go heavy and they want some bigger bodies in there. With Ohio State, you don't see the jack on the field exclusively. You have to go back to watching tape of 2022 where they were actually trying to utilize the jack, and that just happened to be, Jack Sawyer, that they were doing it with. And we'll watch some of that later on in this episode. But, I think there is a little bit of a disconnect between Coach Knowles and Coach Johnson. I think when Coach Knowles came here, he was brought in to run the defense that, got him this job. What I think he realized is that right now our personnel doesn't fit this. And when he got here in 2022, you got to think CJ Hicks was a freshman. Sonny Styles, freshman. Arvell Reese wasn't on campus yet. So Mitchell Melton got hurt again. And so you're talking about guys who were going to play that jack position, but they weren't ready to do it. And so what do? They put Jack Sawyer there, and he does some good things at it, but he also has to drop in coverage, and it's not his strength. In his mind, or in Coach Johnson's mind, he's looking at this like Jack Sawyer is not being developed right. This is a type of situation where these kids end up in the transfer portal because they're not being developed as defensive ends or what they were brought in for. Fast forward to this year. What do you see us run? We run exclusively a four-man front. Well, why do we do that? Number one, Coach Knowles had to adjust to his personnel. And two, this is the strength of our team. The defensive line was the strength of our team last year. Our defensive ends, JTT and Jack, are the strength of our team. So they have to be on the field at all times doing what they were recruited to do. And so as a good coach they should be able to adjust their scheme to fit the needs of the team and the players. And Coach Knowles has done that phenomenally. The defense was one of the best defenses in the country last year. It was a national championship caliber defense without exclusively using the jack position. My thing is, whether there's a disconnect or not, Jim Knowles was hired to do a job. Coach Day needs to understand that in order for him to do this job at the highest level, he needs to get those guys that can be those jack type guys that can rotate in and be those pass rushers. We don't want to miss out on those kids. And so I think Coach Johnson, I think Coach Knowles, towards the end of the season, you started to see some changes in the fronts. At spring practice this year, when I was down there for those 2 practices, you could see some changes in the fronts. And so I think there is now a better understanding as to where this defense needs to go. And there's no reason why both worlds can't be married up front. This is why you're going to see a Sonny Styles, a CJ Hicks, an Arvell Reese, a Mitchell Melton. You're going to see those guys in the game more as that hybrid outside linebacker defensive end. If they go out and let's say CJ Hicks goes out and has 9 sacks this year and 15 tackles for loss, Justin Hill is going to look at this and be like, oh, so this was the plan that they were talking about. Now I can see exactly where I fit in on this defense. You know what I mean? So like that's where I think is the recruitment is still going to happen. I think the Buckeyes are still trying to figure out exactly where they want that position to go. But I can assure you that we are going to see it. We may not see it all the time. It may only be 30% of the time, 40% of the time. But that will be a big chunk of what we do. 30% of what you do, that's a nice chunk on Saturdays. So it will be interesting to see how it works out. The disconnect between Jim Knowles and Larry Johnson, I think there is a little bit, but I don't want it to like overstate it. I think it's just Jim Knowles has a scheme to run and Larry Johnson is fighting for his guys. And so I don't want to put my guys in a situation where they don't feel comfortable. So let's put some other guys in that position. And so that was one of the interviews last year or 2 years ago when Jim Knowles got there and they started talking about the jack. Larry Johnson flat out said, is the jack? What is he? Is he defensive end? Is he a linebacker? Does he come with me? Does he go with Coach Knowles? Those are things that they have to figure out. I think they're starting to see that it can be more of a linebacker type, that bigger linebacker that's able to walk down and do those athletic things that they're used to doing. And so this year will happen. We will see it. I can assure you that. But we just have to understand, like, in order for us to recruit these jack type players, you got to be able to put it on film that you're actually going to use it. And I could totally understand why, Justin Hill would be skeptical of that. And so it'll be interesting to see how it shakes out moving forward.
Yeah, for sure. One little note, you mentioned Dorian Brew, obviously going to Oregon, another very odd thing, but one of the things that has basically came out is he does not want to be the quote unquote third corner in a class.
Yeah.
Well, so right now Oregon has 2, him and the Finney kid.
Yeah.
Oregon's about to steal Pickett,
Yeah.
who has been leaning toward Miami for a long time. And I think he's going to go to Oregon. I think at this point, Oregon is going to get basically whoever they want. If NIL is a big deal. Because, if they say, oh, I need a little bit more money, they're going to get it. And, again, that's legal. So just something to keep an eye on. I don't know that Ohio State's going to push hard for Brew. I think they're good where they're at. So the Buckeyes class. Oh, before we dive into the next part, 2 official visits got scheduled this week. Shakai Mills-Knight, who we talked about a couple weeks ago, and we thought things were cooling off. I don't know how much of a chance there is for the Buckeyes, but he's going to be on campus when this dead period's over at the end of July. And then the bigger one is Anthony Rogers said he's going to take an official in the fall. This is the kid from Alabama, committed to Alabama right now. Fast. So something to monitor there. Not, anything earth-shattering. But the class currently sits at 23 guys. We have heard this class is going to be anywhere from 28 to 30. So I wanted to kind of pick your brain, and I've got a list too to see how you think this class finishes.
Oh, man.
I will go ahead. I'll give you some time to think.
Oh, man.
So I think this class finishes, if we go to 30.
Okay.
This class, I think, finishes with Anthony Rogers. I think the smoke coming out of that unofficial visit was already a lot. For him to come take an official visit in the fall tells you that there's a major interest in here.
Yep.
I think because basically the way this breaks down, we want another running back, we want another wide receiver. Um, I think that last wide receiver is going to be Preston Bowman.
Mm-hmm.
But a name to keep an eye out on is Dalen McCutcheon.
Yeah.
Another Texas kid. Had some interactions on socials yesterday with Pettijohn. Makes you think that Ohio State has him as a take. And then I think where it gets a little hairy is I think they want. Actually, before we go into that, if Chris Henry Jr. reclassifies, I don't think Preston Bowman or McCutcheon are a take.
Yeah.
I think you only take one, and I think that would be Chris Henry in that situation. So if that happens, I think you'll see two offensive linemen. Obviously, fingers crossed, and I do have David Sanders in.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's way too much positive momentum for, as of right now, it not to be Ohio State. Where I get a little crazy, because on the defensive side of the ball, we're done at linebacker.
Yep.
So I think you want two defensive linemen potentially. I think it's just big game hunting at this point. I think we flip Malik Autry, and I think Jakeem Stewart reclassifies.
Okay. All right.
And then I think we finish the class with Messiah Delhomme.
Yeah, I agree with that one.
I think that's where we finish at. How do you see it finishing?
Yeah, man. It's a great question. Obviously, the big thing for me is David Sanders, and I think it's hard for me to say that's where all the attention needs to focus, but that's where
Everything
Coach Day.
Yes.
That's where Coach Day's attention needs to focus. The other assistants can go recruit and knock out their positions, but Coach Day's focus needs to go to David Sanders. And so I think we end up with him plus another offensive lineman. I don't know who that offensive lineman is, but I think they want to add two more. And so I think we end up with David Sanders plus another guy. I just don't know. I don't have any names. I don't know who that could be. And so that's what I think they do add one more interior offensive lineman along with David Sanders. I think Preston Bowman eventually becomes a Buckeye. I think that this is the offer that he wanted. This is the offer that he worked for. I know that they wouldn't have offered him if they didn't think that he could play there. I think his mentality, his mindset when he has the ball in his hands, I think he could be such a underrated recruit in this class, very Xavier Johnson-like. So you're talking about a kid that could be a true hybrid running back, receiver type. And so I think he could be in this class as well. I do think Jakeem Stewart reclassifies. I just think there's been so much smoke around it. Like it's just not, there's no way it doesn't happen. And so if he reclassifies, obviously, I think that he's in. And I think Messiah Delhomme is in for sure. I think that is a kid that I've watched his film a few times, watched his highlights. I think he is very, very good. I think he's got versatility to play both corner and safety. And so those are like the four guys that I think we end up with. Malik Autry be great. I don't know if that happens, but it would be great if we got him. It would be great if Chris Henry Jr. reclassified. I just can't sit here and say for sure that this is the way that it's going to go, but those are the four guys that I think, will definitely, I feel pretty good about the Buckeyes, getting those guys plus an offensive lineman. And so I love these big recruiting classes. I think it's great. I think the Buckeye faithful has been wanting us to do more of this. And so it'd be nice if it ended up with those four. But we'll see how it all goes, man. The fact that Chris Henry Jr. is thinking about reclassifying really changes the whole dynamic of that receiver room. And so, you look at a Dalen McCutcheon, who's also a very good football player. He's a stud. But if Chris Henry Jr. reclassifies, okay, now you're going to look at, okay, we're still going to take a Bowman, because he's a developmental guy. but Chris Henry Jr. is the next guy. So like these are the two receivers that we're going to take, and so it'll be interesting, man. I'm excited. Jakeem Stewart, I didn't know much about up until about a month ago, and seeing how he's been performing at these camps, and he's physically ready to play college football. I mean, it's almost unfair to put him on a high school field again. I mean, that dude is out of this world with his size, man. So that's how I think it shakes out, though.
Yeah, one name to keep an eye on, with the offensive lineman, and this is a dude that and like we've made no bones about it. So when I say I've written somebody off, it's literally just from what I reading tea leaves, that type of thing. I have zero insider connections. Wilfong came out yesterday and said, "Do not discount Ohio State for Josh Petty."
Really?
Which sounds like he wants to go to school with his sister, and she goes to FSU. So it's been assumed Florida State forever.
Yeah.
But something to pay attention to.
Okay. All right.
We'll see. So yeah, I mean, as far as the Buckeyes go, I mean, recruiting is life. We're getting out there. We're a month from camp, so buckle your shoes because it's about to get crazy. But that's all I've got for the Buckeyes side of life.
Yep.
In the sports world, pretty slow week. Probably the big news, I guess, would be Bronny, Summer League debut. The haters are going to hate because
the haters are going to hate.
And then I just got a notification that he has swelling in his knee, so he's sitting out today. So as somebody put with it, load management already in the summer league.
Oh man,
it's not like he looked like he didn't belong. I mean, you're playing with dudes you've not played with for one.
Yeah.
So we'll see. We'll see what happens. I mean, it's the summer league.
Yeah, it's summer league, and he's a second round pick, and he's going to live under a microscope. What they didn't talk about was Dalton Connect, or however you say his last name.
Yeah,
he did not play well as either. You know what I mean? He's their first round pick, and so, God, just let the kid be a kid. I know people are going to talk about nepotism and all that stuff, man. Whatever. Just go out there, Bronny. Take care of yourself. Take care of your health, and go out there and ball out. You got two guys right here that are rooting for you. Exactly. You know what I mean? And so just go out and have fun with it, man. If you end up playing in the G League for 5 or 6 years and then going overseas, hey, man, it is what it is. Not many people could say they've done that. So, just go out, man, and do your thing, man. One thing I did see, the Olympic team, basketball team, got together. First practice was yesterday. Yeah. Steph Curry. Listen, Steph Curry's first Olympic team. How's that happen?
Wild.
I know.
Wild.
I know. There was some injuries, and then obviously with COVID, things like that. So this is his first Olympic team. He's been on world championship teams, but he's not been on an Olympic team. And so his first Olympic team, LeBron, God, I feel like it's his 20th Olympic team. Dude.
Yeah.
Is just still playing out of this world.
How does that team, I don't see a way that team loses a game.
I don't see it either, man. I don't see it either.
Canada, I guess, is the squad. I don't even know who they have.
Canada's got a pretty good squad. I know that you're looking at Andrew Wiggins. Who else would be on there?
Brissett.
Yeah.
Nikhil Alexander-Walker.
Yeah.
So this is who's left in their camp. Nikhil Alexander-Walker, RJ Barrett, Traybell Haynes, Dylan Brooks.
Oh, okay.
They got Shea. Okay.
Yeah.
Jamal Murray.
Yeah.
Dwight Powell, Kelly Olynyk. We don't talk about him after a single arm takedown Kevin Love. Yeah. So that'll be interesting.
Yeah, it's a good squad.
Yeah. Giannis got Greece there, but obviously that's a one-man show.
Yep.
So that'll be interesting. I'm excited for the Olympics, though. It's always fun to watch. Wimbledon, men's side of the Wimbledon bracket is giving us some bangers.
Oh yeah, I have not watched a second of it.
Watched some this morning. Watched a little bit yesterday. We did a Mount Rushmore back in like April, so we'll throw this out there for the sports world of professional wrestlers. So this made mainstream news today.
It did.
John Cena has announced his retirement. Uh, I always feel like he's already retired because you can't see him, but um, dad joke.
That was good. That was good.
So yeah, I told Jaden this morning. I said that's like a part of your childhood, man.
Yeah.
And he goes, I couldn't tell you last time Jaden watched it or whatever, but it was kind of cool to see the mainstream media pick up on that.
Yeah. I saw ESPN, had ran it across the ticker and had some stuff on there about John Cena. I thought that was pretty cool, man. Listen, you can't underestimate how popular he was. I mean, my 4-year-old and my 7-year-old now, I don't know what they saw, but they love John Cena. Like they love him now. And so like he's very popular. Obviously he turned it into pretty successful, acting career. And these guys aren't young anymore. Like he's in his 50s. Like they're not young anymore. And so are close to 50. I don't know exactly how old he is, but like, hey, you've had a great run. Everybody was happy when they saw you run down at WrestleMania. Everybody went nuts.
Right.
You could tell he was laboring a little bit though when he was running because it was not smooth.
Yeah, I was watching The Bear yesterday, the new season. And he shows up on there.
There you go.
Like, so yeah, I mean, pretty low key week in the sports world.
Yeah.
So yeah, with that, I know you got a pretty cool some film for us for Coach Talk today. So I'm excited to see this.
Yeah, man. And so like it's not going to be a long one. We talked about the jack position already. Obviously I'm a defensive guy, so I watch a ton of defensive film. And, everybody was heartbroken that we missed out on Justin Hill. And I get it. He was a must get in my opinion, my favorite recruit in the class. But until the Buckeyes show on film that they're going to use this, and those type of kids are not going to end up at Ohio State. And so what does that mean? Well, I saw a lot of people on Twitter, a lot of people on social media in general saying, well, Coach Knowles better get this figured out. Why don't we use it? Why don't we use it? If you remember in 2022, we did use it, and we did use it quite a bit, and our defense struggled. It was not what it should have been because we had Jack Sawyer playing that jack position. Many people back then on social media were not understanding why Jack Sawyer's dropping into coverage and why is he doing this and why is he doing that. Coach Knowles has made changes to the defense that best fit our personnel. And so that is what he's going to do. You're going to see the jack position this year. But it's been in our defense, though. Like, I don't want people to think like it's a created position that you have. No, it's in the scheme. It's in the defense. And so I've got some clips from 2022. This isn't going to be a long one, but it's literally from the first game, 2022, Notre Dame. Defense had a pretty solid game. You're going to see Ohio State come out in a 4-man front. And then in Series 2, they bring the jack in. And so I want us to see how quickly things will be able to change. For instance, if you want to get a CJ Hicks and a Sonny Styles on film or on the field together. So I will get this popped up. And again, this won't be long. I just think it's always great to have film to kind of back up some of the stuff that we talk about. And so this is from 2022. This is a Notre Dame game. So you can see that we are coming out in our base 4-man front. All right, we got Zach Harrison here as the 5 technique. We've got Mike Hall here as the shade. We've got Tyleek probably here, or Teron Vincent as 3 technique. And then we've got JTT on the backside as the backside defensive end. Notice that JTT is standing up. Why is he standing up? Because JTT and Jack were considered 2 people that could be playing that hybrid outside linebacker defensive end position. All right. And so this is one of the things that you will see from us pretty much on a regular basis is having this base 4-man front. Okay. Get a lot of movement. This was bad play all around. I remember losing my mind and pulling out what little hair I have left. But one thing I want to see, I want you guys to understand, Jim Knowles is they called him the riverboat gambler, right? He is a very, very, very aggressive coach. What we saw last year was him not be as aggressive because it did not fit our personnel, right? Our guys played better when we were able to keep things in front, bend but don't break, and then we were able to pick our spots with our blitzes. This is the first play of the Notre Dame game in 2022, and my guy brings a corner blitz, okay? That is just who he is. That is naturally who he is. Now, we bring the quarter blitz. You know, we had a little bit of a late rotation here from Josh Proctor. Josh Proctor probably could have got a little flatter, but he's probably thinking, I don't want to give up the big play. Ends up missing the tackle, turns into a huge play. But you can see this is the type of defense that he wants to play. He wants to be aggressive and do these things. All right? So that is just play one. All right? We'll go through the first series pretty quick. Okay, so we get the big play. Now we're straight into a four-man front. Okay, staying in a four-man front, probably playing some sort of cover one behind it. Man coverage with the free safety free. Okay. Defensive line does a good job. Okay, now you can see the strength of our defense is on the interior. And the one thing I want you guys to see is this movement that we have from Teron Vincent and we have from Mike Hall. All right, they're doing some sort of twist inside to try to disrupt the offensive line and create penetration, and it does its job. All right, Mike Hall works over top and makes a play. All right, so we get in the red zone. We start to tighten up a little bit more. Okay, still playing some sort of man coverage, it looks like. Ronnie Hickman might be locked on him. They could roll into a zone here too. All right, so they are playing some sort of zone coverage here. Okay, Mike Hall does a great job just making somebody look silly, going to get it. Okay, but notice what we see with JTT. All right, we see him drop into coverage. Well, who does that? The Jack does that. Okay, so they've got JTT playing that Jack position right now. Do we recognize that as the Jack? No, we don't, because it's our base personnel, but this is the type of stuff they want the Jack to do. Mike Hall does a great job, wins his one-on-one, tackle for loss. Going to miss him because he is a freaking stud.
He's a dog.
All right. I believe this is the last. We might have a couple more plays. You can see here we switch the front a little bit. Now we widen out into three techniques, and we're going to show, like, this is called a mug. Okay, so we're going to show like we're going to mug blitz these two inside backers, and we're going to double blitz them into the A gaps and place a man coverage behind it. This is something that I do quite a bit when I was calling the defense last year at Finley. Causes a lot of issues, but they walk out. They get a twist up front. It's a really good job here. This is good defense all around. Again, this is the type of stuff Jim Knowles wants to do. All right? These line games and these twists really mess with what the offensive line wants to do. Okay, good job by Steele. All right. Now, second series. Okay, we talked about it 2 weeks ago. We talked about the mug alignment with defensive end. What do we notice that's different about this? Well, now we're in an odd front, a three-man front, and look where Jack Sawyer is. He's playing that mug alignment, all right? He's going to move around, and he's trying to confuse these guys with his alignment, okay? You notice this is not what we exclusively do. Teams like Alabama are exclusively going to do this stuff, okay? So you see Jack Sawyer moving around. What to us looks like a blitz, it's really just him being a three-technique defensive tackle, all right? But it can mess with blocking schemes, and we're able to go in there and get a play in the backfield, all right? We're able to create penetration. We're able to get a down safety in there and Ronnie Hickman. This is good defense, okay? It's good defense. Let's go to that second play of this series. What do we notice about Jack Sawyer here? Again, he's standing up, okay? He's standing up, not knowing where the offensive line doesn't know where he's going to line up. Okay, so they move him outside here. Now he's a true defensive end. What does this look like? This looks like our base defense. All right, this looks exactly like our base defense. Again, another solid job. I believe there was a flag on the play. Got 2nd and 13 here. Again, you can notice Jack Sawyer's moving around again. This is what they want the Jack to do. All right, this is what they want him to do. You're going to see him drop into coverage on this play, I believe. Yep, drops into coverage. Jack Sawyer is a dog. It's a great player. Going to be a stud in the NFL. Has potential to be an All-American for us this year. I don't know if this is his strength. Okay, I just don't know if this is his strength. I don't know if it's JTT's strength. But dropping into coverage would be a strength of a CJ Hicks, would be a strength of a Sonny Styles, and you would be more confident in that. Okay? So those are the things that we need to really understand and recognize that the Jack has been in our defense. It's always going to be a part of what we do defensively. We just need to make sure that we're marrying the right personnel, all right, with this scheme. And all good coaches are going to run what is best for their kids, and Jim Knowles is doing that. Okay, so when we miss out on a kid like a Justin Hill, yeah, it sucks. It sucks. But do you want us to put kids in the wrong spots just so that we can go get a recruit 2 years from now? Or do you want us to go out there and put out a national championship caliber defense regardless of who's out on the field? All right. We want to be able to add those wrinkles. We want to be able to be deceptive. And those things are going to come this year. You're going to see that with the guys that are more athletic, that are more suited to be in that spot. Similar to what Justin Hill was. Similar to what, Baron Browning should have been for us. And so those are the things that you're going to see. It's not a knock on Jack. It's not a knock on JT. Those guys are able to do it, but they are true defensive ends. Let them go be great as true defensive ends, and we'll develop these other guys as Jacks. So the Jack is in the defense. It's just marrying the right personnel. So we can, stop cussing out Larry Johnson, stop cussing out Jim Knowles, and telling Ryan Day to grow a pair. We can stop all that. That Jack is in the defense. It's just deploying it at the right times with the right personnel. And until they feel comfortable with that, we're not going to see it on an every down situation, or we're not going to see it every game until they feel comfortable with what they have. And I think they're going to get there this year with the guys that they're going to have there. So that is my little rant about, where the Jack position is going to go. I know it's the second time we've talked about it, but it's so important that we understand the whole picture of what we're trying to accomplish. And so we want to win a natty. And if us playing our best defense is playing a bend but don't break style of defense, then dang it, that's what we need to do. Exactly. All right, that's just what we need to do. And Jim Knowles has recognized that, and so I trust Jim Knowles that if he feels that Jack is what we need, that we're going to have the athletic guys in there to go out there and do it at a high level.
Yeah, and you hit on talking about how dropping into coverage isn't Sawyer's strong point. The Missouri game, as brutal of a game as that was to watch, the highlight of that game was Jack Sawyer.
Played out of his mind.
To be a defensive end. He got to see ball, hit the quarterback.
Yep.
So, yeah, I just don't think, as much of a freak as he is, I think he's too stiff to drop into coverage like that.
Yeah.
And JTT, I think he is a better run stopper than he is a pass rusher, as crazy as that sounds. And I don't think dropping into coverage is his strong suit. So It'll be interesting to see, once you get an athletic guy in there, what happens. So that is one thing, I'm excited to see. They're going to get some time to work on it before a game that matters, which will be the nice thing.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens there. But yeah, that was awesome information. As we kind of wind down for this week, time for our July Mount Rushmore. We haven't done a Mount Rushmore, since we changed format, because we did one when we announced we were changing it. So with 4th of July, kind of the midsummer, we bounced some topics around. We thought about doing, your favorite barbecue food, but that's too easy. Thought about doing your favorite Americans. I'd need like 10, but Chuck Norris would be on there, just FYI. So in the interest of, our guys who message us every week and tell us we need to talk more baseball, we're going to do our Mount Rushmore baseball players. I will be 1,000% honest that one guy on my list could be in the potential discussion of one of the greats. The rest of them, no, they're guys. I mean, one of them is a Hall of Famer. Two of them are Hall of Famers. If you count that guy, he's a Hall of Famer too. And then the fourth one, very controversial.
Oh yeah.
My all-time favorite player, growing up especially, was Frank Thomas. So Frank Thomas absolutely has
The
to.
big hurt.
Went to college with Bo Jackson, and then got to play with Bo in the pros.
That's pretty cool.
And then the sweetest swing in all of baseball, Ken Griffey Jr. You know, that's no doubt. I'm a big, offensive guy, big first baseman guy. I'm no small man, so it makes sense to. So I was going to put Jim Thome on here.
Okay, all right.
That would be another first baseman, and I can't do that because my last guy's another first baseman.
Okay.
So I'm going to put Greg Maddux on here.
Solid. Solid.
Very, very, very underappreciated as far as how good this dude was.
Yeah.
And then my fourth is Mark McGwire. Watching him chase 62, just insane, man. Like,
it was pretty cool. It was pretty cool.
Or not, because they were all doing it then. So he was taking them, but the field was still pretty level.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to throw a current guy as my fifth guy just because, it's baseball. I'm a Guardians fan, but as you can see, I'm actually wearing a Philadelphia Phillies shirt today because the biggest Buckeye fan in all of Major League Baseball plays for the Phillies, and that would be Bryce Harper.
Okay.
Bucket list memorabilia item, and I would have to get it done in person. I want an Ohio State helmet a football helmet signed by Bryce Harper.
Okay. All right. Bryce Harper is pretty good, man. He's pretty good. Him and Mike Trout. Mike Trout could stay healthy. I think he'd be one of the greats, but it's hard not to root for Trout. And I like Harper because he's a Buckeye fan. So it's a good list.
I wish Trout could get some help that's not a compulsive gambler.
Yeah.
Otani, but
yeah. That's a good list, man. I went back and forth on Frank Thomas. I'm not gonna lie. The big hurt. First pair of cleats I ever owned, baseball cleats, were his. And I will never forget that. He was a stud. But I'll start from bottom to the top. All right. So number 4 for me is going to be my guy, Rickey Henderson. Okay. Rickey Henderson, all-time leader in stolen bases. I mean, there's like 500 stolen bases between him and second. Like, I will always root for guys who take their craft very serious. And he was not a slouch in other areas. He's a career 297 or around 300 hitter. But he almost had 300 home runs. So there were other areas of his game that he was pretty good at. But he was elite at stealing bases.
Oh my God,
so, Rickey Henderson, he's a shorter guy. You know what I mean? I always root for the guys who are vertically challenged like myself. So Rickey Henderson, he is also one of my dad's favorite players. So, whenever I was back in my skinny years, I was pretty fast on the bases. I led the league in stolen bases, and my dad used to talk to me about Rickey Henderson all the time. And so, understanding the art of stealing bases was something that I always gained some sort of appreciation for. So Rickey Henderson, number 4, he's absolute stud. Number 3 for me. And this one is controversial, just like Mark McGwire. Barry Bonds. Barry Bonds, listen, I get it. He did some things he shouldn't have done. But even before he went to the Giants, when he was with the Pirates, he was an absolute stud. All right. But what he did with the Giants, assistants or not, all right, those are just things that I never thought I would see. To hit so many home runs and that many, that consecutive years, just to to do the things that he did, it was just so cool to be a fan and just watch. He was must-see TV. How many people can you say that about baseball? Like, how many baseball players can you say that about? That are anytime they're on, I need to make sure I'm watching because they may do something I've never seen before. And so, like, he was must-see TV for me. I understand he did some things. He's paying for it now. Obviously, probably won't ever be in the Hall of Fame, but he is an absolute stud, even before the Giants, before the steroids. So Barry Bonds would be number 3 for me. Number 2, Manny Ramirez. Manny Ramirez, underrated player in my opinion.
For sure.
Career 300 hitter, right? Over 500 home runs. Like this guy, 555 exactly. This guy did so many great things. 1,800, where'd it go? I just lost it. 1,800 RBIs, 1,831. Like, the dude was an absolute monster, and he was just consistent. He was lazy, all right? I will give you that. He was not somebody that I was really root for in the field, but at the plate, his swing was beautiful. Everything about his game was something I enjoyed. The first baseball game I ever went to in my entire life, the Guardians, formerly known as the Indians, went up there, watched Manny Ramirez hit a walk-off home run against Mo Vaughn and the Red Sox, and it was like the coolest thing ever. I watched Albert Bell throw somebody out from left field, and he threw the ball so hard that he did a front flip, like just athletic freak. But Manny Ramirez, my guy, the common trend is a lot of guys wear 24. All right. So that's just something that I don't know why, but that's just the way it works out. So Manny Ramirez, number 2 for me. Number 1, the kid, Ken Griffey Jr. It's not even close. Like, Ken Griffey Jr. is one of my top 3 favorite athletes of all time. It goes Tiger, LeBron, and Ken Griffey Jr. He made being a baseball player cool, like wearing the backwards hat. Like, he caught a lot of flack for those things. There are still people out there that, don't think there's a place in baseball and America's pastime for things like that, and the chains and the earrings and stuff. But Ken Griffey Jr. just did it, and he was just so smooth and so cool, and he just did it his way. And it's not easy. He had to play with his father, he had to live in his father's shadow for a little bit, and for him to get out of that shadow and become one of the greatest players to ever play the game. Obviously, injuries kind of derailed his career at the end, but Ken Griffey Jr., man, I think if he stays healthy, the home run record is so far gone, like it's not even close. And so, I got the chance to see him play with the Reds. That was fun. I'm not a Reds fan by any means. I'm definitely a Guardians fan, but Griffey was there, so I had to catch a game before he retired. And so I went down, and he was playing in right field, and I don't know if he paid attention to the game at all. He was turned around talking to fans, eating sunflower seeds, just like hanging out. Like, it was like the coolest thing ever. I'm in right field, like third row, and I'm just living like I'm like I'm 23 or 24 years old at the time. I'm like a kid in a candy store. Like, here's this guy. Like, he's not paying attention. I think he went like over 4. Like, he did not play well at all, but it was still Ken Griffey Jr. And so those would be my top 4. Albert Bell would be up there for me too, just because, growing up and watching him with the Indians. And then shout out to Brett Payne on this one. Otis Nixon, stud. Terry Pendleton, stud. It was hard for me to leave Terry Pendleton off this list. My brother is a diehard Braves fan. And so, like, we grew up watching Terry Pendleton and the crime dog, Fred McGriff. And, watching those guys, man. And so those would be close for me. But yeah, shout out to BP, man. Otis Nixon. He was a big time Otis Nixon fan growing up.
If Ricky Henderson would sign bases at autograph signings, he might have made my list.
Yeah.
But he will not sign bases.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. That's disappointing. Yeah. I got to take him off the list now. Dang it.
I mean, and that's by no means, the biggest memorabilia excluder. There's a gentleman out there who the list of things that he won't sign is longer than the list of things he will sign.
That's sad.
So, yeah. Well, that's awesome. So, yeah, that's this month's Mount Rushmore. we're gonna do another one. We'll do it the first week of August when we record. But we're getting close, man. We're a month from camp. We are. I think Saturday was 49 days from week 0.
Yeah.
56 from the Buckeyes. So, yeah. Just stay tuned. We're gonna keep trying to pump stuff out for you guys. Coach has a new backdrop if you haven't noticed. So he has moved locales. I'm working on doing some redecorating, as you can see, kind of over my shoulder. We've got some footballs sitting on the couch where I've been moving stuff around. So I gotta find a spot for those. One of them is a game used ball signed by Justin Fields.
Oh, nice.
And one's a game ball, not game used, signed by Ryan Day.
There we go.
Yeah. With that said, this week I'm going to shout out guys like you that are about to hit the grind and running in Ohio for high school football starting tomorrow, man.
Yeah, man. I'm like, I'm like a kid in a candy store, man. I'm so excited to get out there and run around and bring some energy and stuff, So I'm excited, man. We got a good group of kids. I'm excited. We got a lot of linebackers that I'm going to be coaching this year, so it's good. It's going to be a nice change for me, and I'm excited to get working. I know all my coaching buddies are excited as well to get up and running, and the season will be here before we know it, man. And it's here. Like it is here. It's to me, this is the best time of the year. To see everybody come together to work towards something, common as like a common goal, working for a league championship, or whether it's, focusing on beating week 1 or whatever it is, man, everybody's working towards the same thing. And so I love it, man. I love it. And you're going to see a bunch of kids out there tomorrow working hard and getting after it. And we're never going to lose sight that it's always about the kids, not about us, man. So I'm excited to get after it, though.
Yeah, with you changing schools this year, I can't wait for these kids to experience the full-blown backwards hat Jared Slater effect.
Yeah, man. So, yeah. They kind of got a little bit of a preview at our youth camp. I had some of those youth kids. They were running around. They were fired up, man. I had them ready to go, but I'm like drenched in sweat, hats turned backwards, and just like energy all the time. And it just felt so good, man. It's been a while since I've been able to like work at youth camp. And so the kids are like, "Are you always this energetic?" I'm like, "Dude, it's just the way I coach, man. I'm sorry. Like, if I'm yelling, it's not because I'm upset with you. I'm just hyped, man. It's what it is." So yeah, I'm definitely excited to get out there and get to work.
Yeah. Can't wait for it, man. Cannot wait. Well, with that said, we will see you guys next week. And, thanks for the support as always.
Thank you.